Famitsu end of year interviews. So there were a whole bunch of interviews done in Famitsu magazine, it's a Japanese magazine, all about the 2021, I believe. I think we had 2020 ambitions at one stage in our notes. From various developers from Sony Interactive Entertainment, Square Enix, Miss Walker, but then we'll start with Platinum Games. So with Bayonetta 3, so Bayonetta 3 has been in development for many, many years now. I'll relay this in my perspective, Swinny. It's pretty much just a carbon copy of the last 4 statements on this game.
Yeah,
4
so
statements. It's going very well. We're looking forward to it.
Sorry, can I just say upfront to anyone that's found this clip, watching this clip, you're not going to get a lot of new information here. So at this point, it's like whatever we can get kind of situation because we just haven't heard anything about this. But this is pure Kamiya. Like he's one of the biggest trolls, like video game developer trolls, and the fact that he essentially made a copy of his last statement last year, exact same thing about Bayonetta 3. That's exactly the stuff he does all the time. It's crazy. Like he blocks people on Twitter for saying nice things about him. Like that's the kind of person he is. He does it all the time. It's his kind of thing,
Yeah, and we'll cover it later because we're going to cover our most anticipated games in 2021. I do think that game's going to come out this year, Bayonetta 3. Let's go into what is this Project G.G? I actually don't even know what this is. What is this?
G.G.
So Project G.G was a game that was teased. I can't remember exactly when, but any new announcement of a new Platinum game is gets some hype behind it. But we haven't heard anything else. This
is the new IP, right?
Yes. So it shows a video. It seems to be some superhero, possibly kind of like an Ultraman thing. We don't know.
I remember it now.
Yeah, and the fact that he's pretty much said, like they've really started moving. They finally started moving on it. So their ambition for next year is to really, I guess, get into development on that game.
Yeah, and then we're with Sony Interactive Entertainment and Nicolas Doucet, I think. There's a new project from the Astrobot devs. I mean, that's kind of like a no-brainer. Personally,
that could be interesting.
I'd love if they expanded Astrobot into just a standalone game. It's amazing. Like all their games have been really odd in a way, like a pack into the console or like a VR game where, as cool as that is,
it's almost like they're really cool tech demos. And you feel like they should have just
it's weird.
Done their own proper non-tech demo thing.
Well, but they're now at the point where that becomes super viable because anybody that bought a PlayStation 5 knows who Astrobot is. Anybody that bought a PlayStation VR likely knows who Astrobot is. So now they can make a full game and actually sell it.
Back off that,
if that's what they're planning on doing.
I mean, to be fair, like it feels like Astrobot will become PS5's mascot.
I think Sony's mascot in general. I think it's almost there.
Which is crazy. Yeah.
And they've tried before whether or not they were technically third party or not to, Crash Bandicoot stuff. Like a lot of that is other, I guess, players and gamers kind of projecting that, rather than Sony pushing that themselves. But it took them 5 generations, but they finally got themselves a mascot. So.
Yeah, and then they'll just dump it for the next generation as they all normally do. Tomoya Asano from Square Enix, another Bravely Default game. Or I do like your note. Is this your note? Is it going to be Bravely Third or Bravely Default 3?
No, they actually said that.
Really?
Yeah. Like I would just put that out of nowhere. So they're like, so Mike, I don't know if you know much about it, but so they made Bravely Default. Then there's a second game in the series called Bravely Second. Now
which they said is the sequel.
They're about to release Bravely Default 2 this year.
Okay.
Which is a different game.
So Bravely Default to Bravely Second to Bravely Default 2. So now they're like, we don't know if we'll do a Bravely Third, which I think is actually a cool title, or Bravely Default 3. So,
yeah. Like literally, Wikipedia, I remember reading it at the time, had to update its description of Bravely Second. Because it actually still says it's the sequel to Bravely Default.
Well,
They edited this. They must have a
It
battle
is, you
on.
know.
You know, I love Wikipedia. I edit things on Wikipedia, and every now and then, like people get into battles about definitions. So I think they were having a battle whether it's a sequel or not, given now that there's Bravely Default 2, and now they're just describing it's another sequel. No, you know what they're going to do here, Swinny? They're going to do Bravely Second 2. Going on to Hiranobu.
All right, let me. Hironobu Sakaguchi.
I got the
Yes.
Sakaguchi good.
All right, thank you. So,
Well, you cover this then. You cover this.
All right, so this is just a small thing, but so Sakaguchi's, obviously heading up Mistwalker, and he just mentioned that their Apple Arcade game Fantasia is actually nearing completion, and so that should be released this year. And I actually checked out a clip of what Fantasia is, and I don't really understand if what they were showing was purely concept footage or that's how they're producing the game, but it looked pretty neat. They had dioramas where they set up like this cityscape and they're having 3D characters run around the dioramas on the screen. So I'm like, but then they had also like artistic effects coming off some of the environments that they had photographed. So I'm like, is that just how they're producing, or is it a concept? Either way, I'm like, that's pretty cool, because it looked very much like a PlayStation style Final Fantasy, where it was a set perspective, almost 2D background. So it looked pretty cool. I do obviously hope that it comes to anything other than Apple Arcade, because I won't be able to play it because I just don't have any Apple products. But I still wish, obviously, that that Mr. Walker would also work on potentially a bigger title, another title, because I love Lost Odyssey, quite liked Blue Dragon, and from what I've heard, the last story was great. It's just a shame that, honestly, I'm surprised that Microsoft, I don't know how well those games worked out for them in the 360 era, but surprised they haven't really come to them to try to get them to do something for them again. So.
And then you've listed a bunch of anniversary celebrations. Personally, I'm getting sick of these anniversary celebrations. It feels like every 5 years is now a major anniversary.
Well, the reason I listed these is because so throughout all the tidbits and interviews, and they mentioned that, we're celebrating the anniversary of this, so we're hoping to do something. So the idea is that there's likely going to be stuff coming out of these anniversaries. Now, there's actually, I saw a graphic, and some of it was wrong, but I saw a graphic the other day off Reddit or something, and it showed all the anniversaries happening this year, and there's heaps that are essentially hitting like a 20th or 25th or 30th anniversary. There's so many, because just think of the timeline around that era. We're now getting to that point where it's really like 30 years and 25 years onwards.
But just on that though, because if you cut everything up into fives, as now is the marketing ploy to do, there's like heaps of games. If you get a bucket gaming up into 5 buckets, like you're always every year you're gonna have a massive anniversary.
I know,
from that perspective.
We're talking, but I think at some point, like, you have to probably say, well, the cutoff is saying something's 25th. Because anything beyond that. But anyway, just to get back
just on that, what's the fair cutoffs for anniversaries?
I think 25th. I just said it.
So 10th? How about 10th?
No, I think 25 years is the.
So you think 25 is the only one that you should celebrate?
For this kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's fair.
So just to get back, the reason I want to mention this, is because there's likely stuff coming out from this, although some of it's just, I guess, their ambitions. But so Dragon Quest has its 35th anniversary.
Yep.
The Mana series has its 30th anniversary. Persona has its 25th anniversary. I'm assuming that's the Persona series specifically, not Shin Megami Tensei, because that was, I guess, late 80s. So, that makes sense. Ace Combat has its 25th. I think that one... So, actually, its 25th was technically last year, but the reason I mentioned this was... No, the reason I mentioned this was because they said that they had planned stuff for Ace Combat for last year, but because of everything that happened last year, they couldn't realize it. So they're hoping to do that, to
so it's
release a lot of stuff.
Anniversary then.
That is so dodgy. It's such a marketing ploy.
No. Again, these were generally quite informal comments. So it's about anyone that is into the Ace Combat series. There's likely going to be some stuff that was already in production this year that was going to happen this year. So that's the whole reason I mentioned this. And the last one was Fatal Frame is having its 20th anniversary. So I wouldn't just go out of the way to randomly pick these. This is what came out of the interview of the developers themselves saying that they're hoping to celebrate this stuff somehow.
Yeah, and look, like, to be fair, I am a sucker for this stuff. If they release anything for Zelda for the 35th anniversary, Metroid, I'll just buy it all. Like, I know I will, especially Metroid. So I actually fear if they go really hard on Metroid. I'm just almost thankful that it's such an unpopular franchise in the mainstream that it's very unlikely. Well, you know, if they release some crazy $499 Australian dollar collection or something, I'll probably buy it.
Fear? Really? I didn't realize they were massively into Fear.
No, Metroid.
Oh, Metroid. What did you say? Fear?
I fear.
Oh, you fear. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, you definitely would buy it.
Yeah, I would. I don't know what the limit would be. I don't want to test it. All right, let's get into the next story. Monster Hunter.